Hey there, it's almost the end of 2024. Yep, the year's almost over. How are you feeling about the year you had? Did you grow? Did you change? Did you move forward in life? Or does it feel like maybe you're stuck? What if I told you there's a simple way to honor your past year, to gain some clarity about your future, and to set the stage for the best year yet? So that's the focus of today's chat. I hope you're going to enjoy this and get something out of it. Have a pen and paper handy because I do want you to take some notes, and you can even pause along the way if that makes sense to answer some of the questions. If you like what I have to say, go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe, of course. You want to share the love here. All right, so let's dive in. This is a time of year where we often are thinking about resolutions, right? And setting goals and that sort of thing. And oftentimes February rolls around and those are all in the distant past already. It's really a time about reflecting on the journey you've had, I would suggest more so, and understanding what that journey has taught you and deciding how you want to move forward. So being more prescriptive about this and less reactive, not simply going through the motions where one year becomes a mirror image of the next. Today, I'm going to guide you through a powerful process to do exactly that. So we're going to reflect a little bit on 2024, identify some of the key lessons that came out of it for you, and ideally set some meaningful intentions for 2025 and explore how you can move some of that stuff forward. We'll get to that in the end. So, did you know that research shows that self-reflection improves emotional well-being? It also increases resilience and it helps people to make better decisions. In fact, those who regularly spend some time in reflection mode, looking at their progress, looking at how life is going for them, are 42% more likely to achieve their goals. That's huge just from spending some time in reflection. Amazing. So I invite you to answer these questions as we go and pause the video. It'll be worth it. I mean, what can it hurt, really? All right, so let's dive in. The first thing I'm going to ask is, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of in 2024? So reflect on that. It may be really obvious, maybe it's not. Maybe there was a big project at work, for example, that you were involved in or took a lead on, or however that worked that you're proud of. Maybe it has something to do with a relationship. Maybe you mended a relationship. It could be with a colleague. Maybe it's your most intimate, close relationship with your partner. Maybe you got a new habit created and you stuck with it, and that is something you're very proud of. Maybe you handled a tough situation with grace. Yeah, so what are you most proud of? Next, I'd like you to reflect on what changed in your life this past year. What changed? What significantly changed in your life in this past year? For some of you, maybe it was a move. Maybe you relocated, bought a new property, moved, that sort of thing. Maybe it was the end of a relationship. Maybe there was a career shift. Maybe there were some health changes that forced you to reflect and grow. So what changed? All right. Now, what inspired you? So in this last year, what were those inspirational points? What happened that really inspired you? So think back, maybe there was a book you read that really had something in it that made you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. And you started. Maybe you listened to a podcast and it inspired you to take some action to change something in your life for the better. Or maybe it was just a random conversation that sparked some new ideas, some goals. Maybe it was something you heard here on YouTube, maybe even from me. So what inspired you? Excellent. And now, what challenged you? So, what challenges came up in 2024? Maybe there was more than one. Just reflect back. What were some of the challenges? So, maybe you faced some obstacles that sort of pushed you out of your comfort zone. Those can always be unnerving. What did you learn about yourself? So that self-reflection, that learning, that growing, that can be challenging when it occurs. All right. And what were some areas or an area where you were brave? Where did bravery show up for you in this last year? So you really stood your ground. You were brave. So think about maybe, moments where you stepped up, where you spoke your truth, where you tried something new and you were scared about doing that, but you did it anyway. You stepped into it and got through it. You were brave. So what's an example or a few of being brave? All right. What mistakes did you make and learn from? So we're always making mistakes and we're always learning, hopefully. So what were some of the mistakes you made this year? Some of those perceived failures that you were learning from. These, remember, are always stepping stones to growth. If we get in that lack mindset or we get stuck in that sort of way of seeing things, we perceive failures as loss, right? But every time we fail, we are being taught something new. So it is a step forward. Failure is actually how we learn and we grow. So what mistakes were made in this last year? And then lastly, in this section, what are you most grateful for? What are you most grateful for? So what in the last year were you so happy about that got you all inspired and made you feel good? It just uplifted that gratitude level. We know that gratitude rewires the brain and it helps us to focus on the positive. So even when there's those small blessings, and I encourage a daily gratitude practice for this very reason, that those small blessings of good health, supported friends, things that happened in that day, they're always worth noting, right? Because that up leveling is so helpful. So what are you most grateful for? And you can list as many things there as you'd like. Beautiful. All right. So why reflect? There are some compelling reasons to spend this time in reflection, right? Largely, and this is what my program's all about when I work with coaching clients, it's about building self-awareness because the reality is that only a few of us really register from a psychological point of view as being self-aware. It's down there in the 10-15% range. So all of us could benefit from greater self-awareness, right? Greater self-awareness impacts how we make our choices and how we live our lives. It also helps you to identify patterns of success and growth because guess what? The mind is more wired, 5 times more wired for the negative. So we sometimes forget to see, oh, yes, there were growth patterns there along the way and giving a little bit more focus on those. Really helpful. It also creates a sense of closure for the year. So doing a reflection on the year can kind of put a bow on it all, just wrap it all up nicely. So it's really a worthwhile endeavor, this end of year reflection process. And I would say these insights are really important. This is more than about making a list, but the real value comes from looking at it, reflecting on it, and then finding patterns and learning from them. I'm a strong advocate of this continual self-growth mode of learning every single day, every week, every month, every year, more and more about ourselves, deconstructing who we think we are so that we can become the best version of ourselves moving forward. So reflection is really helpful there. I'd like us to try another activity now. Stick with me here. We've got a little bit more work for you to do. Go back to your list. And as you read over that list, reflect on it. I'll invite you to ask these questions. From your list, what are lessons that stand out for you? Just reading through and noticing and observing, what lessons can you glean from that list? Maybe it's something like, I learned that I'm more resilient than I thought I was. or I need to take more decisive action, or maybe it's I have to honor my intuition more. So just look at it and see if you can deduce what lesson or lessons you can take away. And now continuing that reflection on the list, what themes are emerging there? Are there any broad themes? For example, maybe this idea of valuing connections, a strong relational kind of theme, and how important that is for you. Maybe it's about the lesson of when I'm out of flow, that everything in life feels worse and seems worse. So the lesson of finding flow in one's life, where things are just working together, right? So what themes are emerging? And then what truths do you want to carry forward? So extrapolating from all of that information in front of you, what truths do you want to carry forward? It could be something like, I want to prioritize health and balance as I go into 2025. Maybe it's, I need to spend more time rebuilding the relationship with my partner and honor that more. That's a truth. Or maybe it's something around career. I have to make some career changes because I don't want another year looking like 2024. So what truths stand out for you? When you take time to review these insights and glean some lessons from them, the process gives you a lot of clarity. It connects the dots between where you've been and where you're going. It's really a smart thing to do. So we're going to shift gears a little bit yet again and move into the domain of intentions. So we were doing the review. Now it's time to shift gears into intentions. In my experience in helping clients find their purpose and set intentions for more than a decade now, I know that intentions are so much better than this idea of resolutions, which we often, embark on or hear about this time of year. Why? Because unlike resolutions, which often fail because they're either too rigid or they're superficially chosen, they lack real commitment, intentions focus on who you want to become and what you want to experience. So I would say they're deeper. They're deeper energetically and even mentally, emotionally. Let's do a little bit more work here. I'm going to pose 3 questions for you to consider. So ask yourself, what do I want to create or achieve in 2025? What do I want to create or achieve in 2025? And just spend some time reflecting on that, write it down. And as you're coming up with that or those, I'd also like you to indicate, how will that make you feel? How will that make you feel if you achieve X? How is that going to make you feel? Let's talk about feelings and get into the feeling mode of it. The feeling mode is important because it is the feeling part of us that drives actions. It compels us to act, right? So what do you want to create or achieve? And what is that going to make you feel? So maybe it's, I want to feel a stronger relationship with my partner. I want to feel excited about a new career path, for example. All right. And then ask yourself, how can I live with more aligned purpose? Now, I know from the work I do that a lot of people struggle with this notion of purpose. It's an area of expertise that I have in terms of helping people do that work. But let's assume you do have a sense of purpose for now or an inkling of what it might be. So, how can I live more aligned with my purpose? So, some responses might look like, well, maybe if I volunteer at a community center, that notion of giving back in some way, right? Or maybe it's about pursuing a new passion project, something that maybe you've been reflecting on a little bit, thinking about a little bit, but haven't taken action on. Maybe it's time, or just to discover something entirely new. Maybe it's being interested in more time in spiritual or self-growth, personal growth avenues. Yeah. Good. So aligning with purpose. And then next, what will I let go of to make room for what matters? This is an important one. We sometimes forget that we can let go of things, especially those that are no longer serving us, just because they're patterns or things that we've been doing for years, maybe. It's okay to reflect on them and recognize I can actually let that go. I'm not down with that anymore, right? So what are you considering you'd be able to let go of to make room for new, the new? Maybe it's something like I'm letting go of self-doubt. Yes, that's not an easy, quick switch flick that you can do. That's going to require some work, right? I'm committed to having less distractions like social media scrolling. Again, some discipline there, just being able to make that commitment and let go of some of that stuff. I'm ready to let go of excuses for not working out, like always finding excuses not to go to the gym. So you maybe get there half as often as you would like to. So these are things that you can let go of, right? And letting go to create more positive outcomes for you, for your life, for who you are becoming. So when you set intentions, you set yourself up with clearer direction. So you know where you're heading. This is so important because this whole notion of going through the motions, which so many of us do, like every day looks like the next, every weekend looks like the next. We live in this autopilot mode. Why not have a clearer direction and know where you're heading? To align your actions with your values instead of living out those old patterns of belief and behavior, you can start to consciously align your actions with what you really value. And if you're not clear on what you really value, then that's something to explore. To increase motivation and focus. This is so important because when we are feeling motivated and focused, that leads to fulfillment. Regardless of the outcomes of things, if we're motivated, we're taking action, we're focused, we will feel more fulfilled. Excellent. You've now set yourself up with intentions for 2025 based on your 2024 reflections and other experiences too. So now let's take a moment to sense what it'll feel like when you achieve your intentions. Looking at those intentions, how's that going to make you feel when those come to fruition? What type of person are you going to be and feel? And I am inviting you to take this exploration of feeling, really take it in and notice how it feels in your body, in your mind. Because tapping into and remembering this energy is what's going to fuel your success going forward. Not just the words, not just the concepts, but what do I feel in me when I think of that outcome that I'm going to achieve? That's super important. It's not just good enough to think about things you want to change. You need to feel that future you. As I mentioned earlier, those who take time to reflect and plan are 42% more likely to achieve their goals. Like, that's crazy. But that's also a whopping 58% who don't. And even when you're in that more likely 42% cohort, it could be that having personalized guidance will make it more likely to happen. So working with a coach to achieve your intentions is a surefire way to increase your likelihood of success. Those old patterns, those old belief systems, and that cozy comfort zone we find ourselves in, it's so familiar, right? Even if it's not making us happy. But these are the things that keep most of us from changing. Coaching works because it gives you accountability. It helps you to get clear. And it helps you to create a proven framework for achieving your goals. There was a study by the International Coach Federation that found that 80% of people who work with coaches report greater self-confidence and 70% see improvement in their work performance. So there's a powerful correlation here. Another important aspect is the skill level of the coach that you may work with. Too often, a cookie cutter approach is used where perhaps a script is read to guide you through each coaching session. Maybe that can work on a surface level, but a seasoned coach has more experience and a larger life toolkit to assist his or her clients. So let's be clear, not all coaches are created equal. If you're considering finding a coach, I want you to be clear about your wants and your needs before you start looking. Do you need one-on-one sessions tailored for your unique needs? And if so, can the coach you're interviewing, and I would suggest interviewing them, provide that? What tools and life experiences do they bring to the relationship that you're going to have? This is a relationship. You're going to be working together. Are these sufficient and do they align with your interests? Do you need accountability? And if so, how will the coach hold you accountable? And what about rapport? It's really important that you trust your gut, that there's an intuitive kind of connection with the coach that you choose. You'll definitely need to step into vulnerability at times when working in this relationship. And so you'll want to be 100% comfortable with the person you're working with. So those are just a few things to consider. However you decide to move forward with a coach or doing it on your own, keep in mind that reflection fuels growth. So you've got your reflections starting here, and then intentions spark transformation. So you don't get into transformation unless you have some intentions that are moving you forward. But it's ultimately action that makes it all real, that does the change. So not good enough just to reflect, not good enough just to have intentions. The action, and I would argue the inspired action, is what really makes the difference. So I encourage you not to let another year slip by where you're feeling stuck or uncertain. You deserve a life that's got purpose, that's fulfilling and joy-filled. If I can help you out with that, don't hesitate to reach out through the links in the notes below. Who knows what magic we could get up to together? All right, that's it for today. So I hope you've enjoyed this. You can like, comment, subscribe, share, any of those things. Greatly appreciated. And we'll talk again in the new year. Take care.